What's up, YouTube? This is Gresnik, and welcome to another Game Theory reaction. I seem to be doing a lot of these as of late, because they keep posting videos that I'm actually going to react to. That doesn't tend to happen that often. Well, it's a Minecraft theory. Game theory? What if this Minecraft mob existed? I mean, here's my view on the mob vote, is they should, as they seem to be doing with the Copper Golem, well, they did with the Copper Golem, they're probably going to slowly start re-implementing them into the game, since they're done with the mob vote. So these older mob vote losers might get into the game, maybe, I don't know, it could be a possibility. As always, like and subscribe to the Game Theorists and myself. Comment down below anything you'd like me to react to, and if you do comment down below, I will most likely respond. Now, let's get into the video.
What if the Minecraft mob vote were different? Year after year, Mojang had us vote on the game's next mob. This shaped the game and the lore as we know it. But if one of these votes turned out differently, it wouldn't have just affected the yearly updates, it would have changed everything.
I mean, it makes sense if we, didn't get the sniffer.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the
Or it could
show
be
that
different.
answers questions like, what if things were different? Like, what if you subscribed? Think about how different life would be. Worth trying, right? But while you wait to see the results, let's talk about Minecraft. Last year, we did a video theorizing about the Copper Golem, a mob that lost pretty dramatically to the LA during the mob vote of 2021. But then we got the Copper Age update, which resurrected the Copper Golem, officially putting it in the game. And it's great. People have been super creative with them, from using them to run their entire base to pranking their friends.
Making
But all
gambling.
of this got me thinking. Before this, we thought every losing mob was gone forever because, well, Mojang said that's how it worked.
And remember to vote, because the free ones that you don't vote for, they will be gone forever.
But clearly, we are able to bring back these mobs, so what if the other losing mobs were added back to the game? And more importantly, what would their lore be? You see, mobs are more than just silly little guys who populate Minecraft's blocky world. They're also valuable clues that help us unlock the game's secrets. In the past, they've played key parts in helping us track down the mysteries of the ancient builders and the overworld they left behind. If a different mob was chosen, it could set off a butterfly effect, changing the way we see the world of Minecraft forever. So we are going to do
Makes
something a
sense.
little different today, loyal theorists. We are going to jump in our theory time machine and revive 3 rejected mobs, exploring
Oh, we're
all
doing
the
3.
blocky implications
Nice.
that come with it. It's time for us to go into
You
the
keep using the
Minerverse.
glare, so I'm
No, not
guessing
that.
we're gonna
The
use the
Crafterverse?
glare.
For now, let's just go with the Mojangverse. Allons-y!
Oh, the rascal.
The first stop on our journey through time is to 2022. The Sniffer won that particular mob vote, totally legitimately, I might add. So we did a whole episode on this big boy. But while I too was drawn in by the Sniffer's promises of ancient secrets, I was also intrigued by one of the underdogs in this race, the Rascal. This mischievous little guy captured my heart
Rascal
with his
was
gifts and
interesting, in my
never-ending
opinion.
games of hide and seek. But I quickly had to say goodbye to him because 55% of people voted for the sniffing dinosaur. So today, I'm bringing it back. Based on the teaser Mojang shared, rascals are small creatures that would have been found deep underground, specifically in mine shafts. Once you see him, you'll embark on a high-stakes game of hide and seek. Find them 3 times and they'll give you a prize, like an enchanted pickaxe, for example. And that is pretty much all we know about the rascals. So how on earth can we
Weird
figure out how
creature.
the lore would have changed with
That
them
doesn't
included?
imply
Well,
it's
first,
intelligent,
let's
though.
look a little closer at what we do know. The rascals call the mine shafts home, and we've believed for a long time that these mine shafts were built by the ancient builders as they mined for materials. So it would only make sense that a mob who specifically spawns in those mines and carries tools must share a connection with those ancient builders. But contextually, it also makes sense. The rascal would have been added to the Trails and Tales update, the update that's all about excavating and finding a lost civilization buried underground. In that update, we saw all of the pottery sherds, which led us to realize that the ancient builders were not just one monolithic culture, but consisted of multiple different tribes. The Sniffer, the true winner of the mob vote, actually appeared on one of these shirts. Look how cute he is. But in the timeline where the Rascal wins, this cute shirt would likely have been replaced with an arguably cuter shirt, the Rascal shirt, or something similar, implying that they too would have had a relationship with the ancient builders, much like we theorized about the Sniffer. Although, unlike the Sniffer, which is more of a pet, I actually think the Rascals would have been more than friends. They'd have been more like equals, more than any mob we've seen in the past, and it all comes down to mythology. Listen, I come from Europe, and there is no shortage of strange little mining creatures in our folklore. And this one,
Yeah, y'all have a lot more
because
interesting
I
stuff.
began looking into something I've always loved: knockers. No, not like that. Knockers, these dwarf-looking guys. Get your head out of the gutter. Anyway, knockers are supernatural creatures native to Cornwall, England, and its many ancient tunnels. They're ambivalent little fellows. Sometimes they're super helpful, and other times, not so much. When they're having a bad day, they hide miners' tools or lead them through confusing tunnels to nowhere. But on a good day, they would lead you to valuable ores. Sounds familiar, right? We only know of one prize that they would give you, the pickaxe. But who's to say they wouldn't give you other valuable ores as a reward? And maybe
Makes sense.
the ancient builders failed that little hide-and-seek game, so they stole the tools from them, which they would now give to us. Or maybe it's actually something much worse. If you go back and look at the knockers, they too were often depicted with pickaxes. And it wasn't just because they enjoyed hanging out in the mines. The real reason is actually much darker. According to legend, knockers were actually the spirits of fallen miners. After dying, their spirits would remain in the mines, haunting or helping future miners for the rest of eternity. This means the Rascals definitely weren't just friends with the ancient builders. They were the ancient builders. They are all the poor souls who died in the mines, either to the many dangerous mobs that were down there, or maybe they were some of the many who lost their lives to either the Wither or the Warden when those mobs came and invaded the ancient cities all
Interesting.
those years ago. Now they live on as supernatural mobs, helping Steve to find the treasures that lie below the surface.
I wouldn't-
And that could be a big
I would
help,
be
because
happy
if
if
you
more
do go into your personal
supernatural
cave of wonders
things
right
like
now,
the
how
LA.
many treasures are you likely to find? December usually cleans me right out, and it can really take a while to build
I
my
smell
savings
an
back
ad.
up, which is where our regular partner Chime
Yep,
is
it's a
here to
Chime.
help. Chime is
It's
the
Chime.
number one way to start the new year. Thanks again to
Yep, use their code and stuff to
Chime for
support game
sponsoring this
theory.
video. Let's hop back into our Theorist time machine and see where it pops us out next.
Alright, who's next? Yeah, I was guessing you were gonna do the glare.
In 2021, the mob vote was between the Allay, the Copper Golem, and the Glare. The Allay won that vote, and as we spoke about earlier, the Copper Golem was recently added to the game, leaving the Glare
The
all
Glare is
alone
the
out
only
here in
one
the
that's
Minecraftless
not.
void. So I figured we'd give him his moment in the spotlight, which, based on his mechanics, he'd probably quite enjoy. The Glare was supposed to be another helpful mob on Steve's journey. It would fly around caves letting you know when it's dark enough to spawn mobs, mainly by looking a little bit grumpy. And now I know, even at the time, we joked about how this felt a little pointless. But regardless of its mechanical usefulness, lore-wise,
It seems like a
definitely
golem,
would have been an
honestly.
interesting addition. You see, the winner of the 2021 mob vote was going to be
Or at least
implemented
looks
during the
like.
Wild update. This update was huge, especially for lore reasons. We saw the addition of the ancient cities, giant underground structures seemingly built by the ancient builders, and we have talked about those things a ton in previous theories. But this
Yep.
update also included a new biome that we haven't really talked about: the Mangrove
Mangrove
Swamps,
Swamps.
a new area that was waterlogged,
Very
and
cool
covered in
biome. I
overgrown
hate
leaves,
living in
roots,
it.
and most importantly, moss. Now take a look at the Glare and tell me that this little guy wouldn't fit right in. Just imagine sitting there in the
I mean,
middle
they
of this
also
biome,
added
and
the
suddenly, out
mossy,
from behind
like
a
the
mossy
mossy
tree,
case
this
in
thing
this
pops
update
up.
too.
And the more I thought about a little mossy creature, it also reminded me of another creature from European folklore, the moss folk. These guys come from Germany and are similarly covered in moss and foliage. Their main role is to serve as guides for travelers found in the forest, warning people of danger, just like the Glare, warning players of dangers that await them in dark areas. But this is where I think things could have gotten really interesting. In folklore, if you were approached by one of these moss people in order to receive their guidance, they would ask for something in return. Whatever the human gave them would determine their demeanor towards them. If the moss folk received a good offering, such as bread or porridge, they'd aid the humans with gifts and guidance. But But if someone gave them a bad offering like caraway bread, a type of rye bread with caraway seeds in it, they would become angry. To be fair, if I asked for bread and someone gave me rye, I'd be mad too. Yeah, I said what I said.
You don't need to compliment him. He's barely a person. He's an intern.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Anyway, it would have been interesting to see this kind of mechanic working in-game. Just like you give an item to the allay for it to hold, you could give the glare bread to hold. Instead of porridge, maybe they'd accept offerings of mushroom stew. Once you befriend them, they'd tag along through the caves, keeping you away from danger, offering healing or maybe even positive status effects when fed more. But if you give them one of their disliked items, they become hostile, running away or maybe even attacking you. This would have been extremely helpful for the ancient builders and their ancient cities that we were introduced to in that same update. After the ancient builders created the Wither and began destroying everything, they fled underground, gathering what resources they could in the deep, dark caves, trying everything they could to hide from the Wither. So, a companion like the Glare, who could warn them of dangers lying in the darkness, would have been a huge help for these guys. Maybe instead of regular carpets on the floor that they used to quiet their footsteps against the Warden, we would have
Moss
found
carpet.
moss carpets, with moss and foliage being stored in the loot chests of the ancient cities. The Glare would have been their guidance and their supply for materials that they couldn't access underground like leaves and moss. To us, the Glare seemed kind of pointless, but for the ancient builders, they would have been vital for survival, at least during this stage of their journey, a mythical forest creature who guided them through the dangers of the deep dark.
The Barnacle. Yeah, this was on the thumbnail,
Now
so I was
we're
guessing.
going way
You know-
back, all the way back to
You know, whenever they introduced the Nautilus, I was kind of also hoping they were going to add in the Barnacle. Mainly because they seem pretty similar, except, like, obviously, like, they have a similar head shape. But then, like, the Barnacle would be an aggressive version, or, like, it would be the thing that hunts the Nautilus. Or, like, they would be two different animals in Minecraft with, like, a rivalry. I was kind of hoping for that. They didn't go down that route, which I'm fine with. I was just kind of looking for another mob boat loser to get added in, which doesn't seem to be what would be happening with the current update. It just doesn't really seem like they do that, or like they would have already announced it by now if they're going to add a mob boat loser for the current update. But I feel like it was just missed potential to not add the Barnacle during the Mouts of Mayhem update.
the very first mob vote in 2017. Back then, Mojang wasn't interested in helping us, they wanted to destroy us. Unlike the last 2 years we talked about, this vote actually had 4 creatures instead of 3, and all of them were dangerous. Unfortunately for literally everyone, the Phantom won. And now we have this
Why
annoying
did we
airborne
choose the
manta ray
annoyance?
judging us for having a bad sleep schedule. In my humble opinion,
You
many
can't
of the other
build, you
mobs
have
would
to
have made
sleep.
much cooler and much less irritating additions to the game. But my favorite of the 3 forgotten mobs has to be the Barnacle.
Barnacle.
The Barnacle was going to be a large sea creature, which would have been a welcome addition to the game considering Minecraft is kind of lacking in water enemies. All we really have right now are the drowned and both types of guardians. They're all pretty cool, but it's always nice to have some variety, you know? Anyway, the Barnacle would have used its tentacle-like tongue to pull players and their boats down to the bottom of the sea. This would have added a bit of a challenge to traversing the ocean. Suddenly being pulled down and coming face to face with a huge monster definitely would have been terrifying. Just imagine trying to fight it or attempt to escape its tentacles before you run out of air. Plus, it would add some difficulty and intrigue while you're endlessly crossing the massive ocean biomes that Minecraft loves to generate. But we aren't here to talk
Yeah.
about the mechanics of the Barnacle. We are
It's
here to
really
talk
annoying
about
when they
the
just
lore.
put
If
big
we had won, it
ocean.
would have conveniently been a part of the aquatic update. This update actually made the oceans a little bit more
That would have
interesting than
been
they were before.
very
We got a
fitting.
ton of new stuff like the ocean ruins, underwater chasms, shipwrecks, and treasure maps, which led you to a chest containing the heart of the sea. Which is completely unrelated to the heart of the ocean from the 1997 classic movie Titanic. No, this heart of the sea is a strange blue orb that is essential for making a conduit, a device that gives the player the ability to breathe underwater when close by. This device is super useful for both Steve and the ancient builders alike. While Steve might be using it to build a cool underwater base, the ancient builders needed it to literally preserve their way of life. You see, there was once a time when the ocean ruins were actually above ground. They were places of worship, spaceship where the ancient builders gathered to pay respects to the hosts, the gods of this world. But unfortunately, due to all the smelting the ancient builders were doing, the ocean levels started to rise, and fast. They needed a way to protect their temples, so they set out on their boats to find the heart of the sea. Unfortunately, they weren't successful. Their ships got wrecked, and those who stayed behind turned into the drowned. The thing is, with the evidence that currently exists in the game, we don't exactly know why these boats crashed. They were tribes of fishermen and pirates. It would feel odd if in reality they were just incompetent sailors.
Oh,
especially
so you're
the
suggesting the
amount of
barnacle
shipwrecks.
is like
The barnacle
the
would have
Kraken.
solved this mystery. When I first saw the barnacle, the thing that came
The
to mind,
Kraken,
of
yeah, you're
course,
gonna-
was the Kraken, a sea monster from Nordic folklore that's described as a giant tentacle-wielding monster that loves to tear ships apart or drag them down into the depths of the ocean. This was the Vikings' explanation for the harsh waves or massive whirlpools that destroyed their ships on voyages. They believed the Kraken would create these huge whirlpools by swimming in circles. The barnacle is clearly supposed to be this ship-wrecking Kraken. Another cool thing is
Makes
that
sense.
since these myths were made, scientists have researched the real-world explanations for the huge waves and whirlpools that were terrorizing the sailors. Scientists believe these were the results of tectonic plate movements. Earthquakes and underwater volcanic eruptions created whirlpools that sucked down ships, which is exactly what we see in the aquatic update when they added underwater chasms with magma blocks at the bottom that would cause the player to be sucked down. So even though we didn't vote the barnacle into our Minecraft timeline, some of the science
Which I
for
feel
the
like
barnacle
all of
still
the
made its way
other
into the game.
options
So
were better
we'll
in
count
that
that as a
mod
win.
vote.
That being said, a lot of the shipwrecks don't even generate near the magma blocks or underwater chasms, so we still don't truly know how these ships
Look,
got
it's
wrecked.
anomalous.
Unless the barnacle was added, then the wreckage would all finally make sense. These boats were desperately searching for the one thing that could save their families, only for them to get lost at sea with their ship's hull serving as their watery grave. Now, to me, all of this sounds pretty cool, and it's always fun to jump into the theorist's time machine to go back and see what could have been. But as
Yep.
with any time travel, there's a catch. Adding these mobs, at least back then, wouldn't have just added to this world's cool lore. The butterfly effect, these little changes could have affected so much more. If the rascal had won, the sniffer would have been banished to the Shadow Realm instead. From a game perspective, let's be honest, these guys don't do much other than look cute.
They're
Two,
very,
some decorative
very
parts, although I don't
useless.
think people would be that upset about it. But from a lore perspective, the sniffer was the answer to a bunch of our questions.
Yes, the sniffer was pretty important for lore, but the sniffer was not what we thought it was going to be. We thought this thing was going to like actually be useful, but instead all it does is dig up 2 seeds for flowers. Now, they could fix the sniffer by simply make it be able to dig up any already existing seed or vegetable that's in the game. They could fix it by just giving it a table of plants that it can just pull out of the ground. Like, they could make it to where sniffers can, like, dig in the ground and they could, like, pull up, like, beetroot seeds or something. Or, like, pumpkin or watermelon seeds. Or even just, like, carrots and potatoes. Or they could add seeds for the other flowers if they wanted to. Like, they could add wildflower seeds that just grow a random flower whenever you plant it. They could have done that, but instead they made it to where the sniffer only digs up these 2 specific plants. Wow, so cool and useful. This is very not useful. Yeah, no, it sucks. I don't like it. The sniffer itself is cool, though.
It appeared on one of the ancient sherds, showing that it was alive at the same time as the ancient builders, and showing us that the timeline was over thousands, if not millions, of years instead of just, say, hundreds. We then learnt that the ancient builders themselves actually brought these guys into the overworld from the Nether, explaining the crazy skeleton structures that we find in the Nether and the overworld. And then there's the plants that the sniffers were trying to dig up. We learnt from history that those were used for medicinal purposes. So if it weren't for the sniffer, we wouldn't have known about the entire savannah tribe of builders and how they were actually healers. Then if we got the glare instead of the allay, we wouldn't have discovered the origin of the Vex, how illagers were combined.
Yeah, good point. That's like one of the things I thought of is, yeah, wait, if we didn't have the allay, we wouldn't be able to explain Vexes still, and we wouldn't been able to go down the whole illager rabbit hole. The ones that we have gotten do explain what we have.
the allay to create a new mob. We may have even lost our little helpers in Minecraft Legends, and I'm not sure the glare would have been as fitting a counterpart. Then if the barnacle had won, we'd have lost the phantom, which means, no, actually everyone hates the phantom.
Yeah, no, nobody likes these things. They suck. They are the worst mob in the game. their only use is Phantom Membranes. But by the time you have an Elytra, you already have Mending Villager. So these are useless still. I mean, I feel like they could fix that by just making the Phantom Membrane a armor trim item. They could easily do that, but I don't know why they would. It would be... I didn't click anything. What?
Definitely should have got the barnacle instead. But now, thanks to the Copper Golem, it is clear that we can have our cake and eat it too. Have the best of both worlds and add these guys in, giving us even deeper lore to this already very deep game. And if you do decide to do that, Mojang, hit me up. Trust me, I've got plenty of ideas. But hey, that's just a...
Okay, yeah, that's the end of the video, but... Man... Yeah, this is very correct. Minecraft Dungeons is such a weird game because of the amount of the mob vote mobs that are just in that game. We have the wildfire. The vulture is in the background of some of like the deserty scenes, and then there's like a couple, like the iceologer. There's a couple mob vote losers in that game, and I feel like that just makes it to where there could be a chance they're added to the main game. Because at some point they might start adding stuff from Minecraft Dungeons, like at least like mobs into normal Minecraft. But like, hey, it would be very nice for them to bring more of the mob vote losers into the current game. Mainly because we need more unique hostile mobs and stuff. Because honestly, something I've noticed when playing so much Minecraft is fighting mobs is really boring. Like, I feel like if we got the barnacle in the game, if we killed it, we could make a grappling hook or something. The wildfire would probably just be a blaze that yields more blaze rods or something. And honestly, I don't remember what that third one is called. Yeah, it just got turned. It's just a crafting table, basically weird. Well, good video. As always, like and subscribe to the Game Theorists and myself. Comment down below anything you want me to react to, and if you comment down below, I will respond to your comment. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.